Now, how did a $14 million treaty settlement turn into a $20 million loss? Taranaki iwi Ngāti Tama fought hard for a stronger economic base, only to lose it all.
Us as present-day people haven't done our job as caretakers and looked after what we've got.
The iwi put their trust in investment advice from David Phillips. Back in the 80s, he was a multi-millionaire until his fortunes crashed along with his company, Pacer Carriage. A high-profile fraud case ended with him being acquitted. It was through David Phillips that the iwi invested in an Australian software company, My Virtual Home, and his property development company, Open Group. Both businesses have collapsed, taking Ngāti Tama's money with them. The iwi's CEO Greg White has resigned and is refusing to talk to the media about what happened.
Well, joining me now is Haumoana White from Taranaki, who has watched the Ngāti Tama saga unfold, along with our commentator Willie Jackson, who, like me, also whakapapas to Ngāti Tama. Tēnā kōrua. Haumoana, we'll start with you. What's your understanding of what went wrong?
Well, I don't really have an insight into how the decisions were made to gamble that money in cyberspace, but it appears as though the decision was made in isolation. In isolation.
Okay. Tell me what you think of the statement that I've just read out from Greg White.
Well, I suppose he had no option but to admit that what was done was wrong.
Does this do enough, in your view, to answer to
well,
I guess the accusations that have been levelled?
I think the real question is, where's the money?
Willie Jackson, what's your feeling after hearing this statement from Greg White?
Oh, it's good that Greg has admitted that there was some wrong done, and I think he's accepting that. The tribe has to move on. It's no good trying to find out where the money is. Well, they might go down that process still. But mistakes have been made, and now the tribe, so they left it with Greg. And he made some big mistakes. It was a pitiful settlement. It was $14.5 million. And Greg and them grabbed at it. They jumped at that settlement and undermined, unfortunately, most of Taranaki in the process. That settlement should have been a lot bigger. And now it's gone. The whole settlement process is tremendously unfair for the people in the Haukainga, isn't it?
Haumoana, do you think that the government should have provided more guidance when the settlement came about?
If we are to apportion blame, Willie's right. That investigation will go on, and regardless of what I think and what Willie thinks, there'll be an investigation and whatever will come out of it. But I think the blame has to lie fair and squarely at the process of settlement. Mm-hmm. The mandating process, and everything associated with OTS.
So what are you saying? What needs to happen?
Well, first off, an iwi has to have a very clear plan, an iwi plan, at a very high levels, and it needs...
Well, arguably that was there, though. It just didn't work. In fact, arguably, it wasn't Greg White or anybody else's fault. It was just unfortunate circumstances that led to the money being lost. Well, Two companies went bust.
I don't think what they followed was a high enough level of input from iwi into that plan. Willie and I could go down to TAB and agree, let's buy back a couple of horses.
Well, it seems like that's almost what the investment plan was all about. Yeah. Look, I think what
the investment plan was to build on the...
Yes, but it was not enough money to be going down that track. Mm. And what the whanaunga knows is that Crown goes in, they pick the relation who they're going to deal with. That relation's undermined the rest of
Taranaki. So does that mean then, does the government then need to take more responsibility, provide guidance to iwi on how to manage their funds?
There's always been that view too, that the Crown should offer support once a settlement has been given. But again, I come back to the process. The process is a bit of a cowboy process. They pick out the wrong person. We've got the other people in the Haukainga who are complaining all the time. The settlement, the $14.5 million, Miriama, is already worked out before they get to the table. That's why when I talk about the Crown should give consideration to giving more money, it's because the whole system is a rip-off anyway.
We have to look forward Right, so can Ngāti Tama rebuild? Haumoana?
Very difficult, very difficult.
And what do you see, Willie? Do you believe there is a possibility?
It's going to be, I think that, look, it's going to be very difficult, but it's funny what you can grow. And I think they need to bring in the wider Ngāti Tama. You know, there are a group out there, like the whanaunga over here, who've been just left out, basically, right?
The ratification rate for the governance entity was not good. There were significant and compelling submissions that raised serious concerns about the exclusion of Ngāti Tama people from the process. The issues raised and the fact that they remain unresolved highlight the serious flaws in the settlement policy and process, which create a conflict, fail to manage that conflict, and then deny all responsibility. The settlement process selects the winners, disadvantages the others and leaves the iwi hapū and whānau to pick up the pieces at the end. It is not for the state to determine who is to be the governance entity or those responsible for the management of the iwi's assets. Despite claims to the contrary, the Office of Treaty Settlements does interfere with that decision in ways that undermine the sovereignty and capacity of iwi and hapū. It does that in the first instance by unilaterally determining the requirements for the structure and nature of the governance entity. The process of the Office of Treaty Settlements has failed the whānau whānui and Ngāti Tama as a whole.
NZTA engaged and paid former Office of Treaty Settlements employee Mr. Michael Drever as NZTA's expert witness. Mr. Drever was involved in the exclusion of 174 Poutama ancestors from the Ngāti Tama governance entity ancestor list almost 2 decades before. Mr. Drever, NZTA and the Ngāti Tama governance entity kept these exclusions a secret from the Environment Court. In his evidence, Mr. Drever disclosed his wife and daughter's whakapapa to Ngāti Mutanga but failed to disclose their whakapapa to Ngāti Tama. Mr. Drever confirmed that NZTA's usual approach is to resist entry into a debate about mana whenua status and that the Mount Messenger project was the first time that NZTA had chosen to do so. NZTA funded the Ngāti Tama governance entity to resile from the agreement they signed with Poutama in 2013 and to pretend that the Crown had not included Poutama in the Ngāti Tama treaty settlement. Despite the Crown and Parliament having included Poutama iwi within the Ngāti Tama Settlement Act 2003, the Environment Court wrongly found that Poutama were not iwi and not hapū and not tungata whenua. Poutama believe that this finding is either incompetence or corruption. The injustices caused to Poutama and Ngāti Tama as a whole need to be rectified urgently as a matter of national importance.